Have you ever had that feeling, that pit in your stomach during a performance review when you have to write down your own accomplishments and your mind just goes blank? Well, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're going to dig into why it's so incredibly hard to see ourselves clearly, and more importantly, how we can learn to quiet our own harshest critic. I mean, this comment from Reddit just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that mix of panic and frustration when you're put on the spot. It's such a common struggle, and honestly, it points to a much bigger question. So, why is this so tough? It's not just about being disorganized or having a bad memory. The real answer, it turns out, is buried deep in our own psychology, in the mental shortcuts our brains are taking all day, every day.
And that brings us to what you could call the self-review paradox. It's this weird irony where the very mental tools that help us get through the day can actually twist how we see our own abilities.
Think about it. Our brains are dealing with a mind-boggling amount of information all the time. To cope, they create these little shortcuts, these cognitive biases. They're like mental rules of thumb that help us make snap judgments. But here's the catch. Those shortcuts aren't always right. Sometimes they lead us down a path of some pretty serious errors in thinking. Now, one of the most famous and humbling of these biases is something called the Dunning-Kruger effect, and it perfectly explains why sometimes we have absolutely no clue about our own weaknesses. To put it simply, the Dunning-Kruger effect is when people who are really not good at something genuinely believe they're great at it. And this isn't about being dumb, it's specific to a certain skill. You could be a world-class coder but a terrible presenter and be totally unaware of it. And you can see how this creates huge problems on a team, right? Someone might confidently steer the whole project off a cliff, not because they're arrogant, but because they have a genuine blind spot. And check this out. This is the original 1999 study that made it famous. Dunning and Kruger found that the worst performers, the folks who actually scored way down at the 12th percentile, thought they were crushing it, ranking themselves at the 62nd percentile. And notice the flip side too. The top performers, they actually underestimated how well they did. It's fascinating. So what's really going on here is this dual burden. It's a double whammy. You don't just lack the skill, you also lack the self-awareness, the ability to think about your own thinking, to even realize you lack the skill. The very knowledge you need to be good at something is the same knowledge you need to judge how good you are. Okay, so let's shift gears from these big picture biases and bring it inside, to that voice in all of our heads. Because for so many of us, that internal narrator isn't a cheerleader. Nope, it's a harsh, relentless critic. We basically have these two voices battling it out. There's the inner critic. It runs on fear and shame, constantly telling you you're not good enough and that any challenge is a major threat. But then there's the inner coach. This voice motivates you with purpose, focuses on what you're good at, and sees challenges as chances to get better. And this isn't just some fluffy, abstract idea. You can actually see it in the brain. When you're beating yourself up, you are literally lighting up the error detection parts of your brain. It's like a fire alarm that's constantly going off, telling you something is wrong with you. But when you practice self-coaching and self-reassurance, you activate totally different areas, the ones linked to compassion and warmth. So the big question is, how do we turn down the volume on that critic and build up our inner coach? Well, the great news is that this is absolutely a skill you can learn. There are real, practical tools we can use to start changing that internal conversation. And the answer isn't just to slap on a fake smile and try to think positive. No, the most powerful solution is something deeper, a practice called self-compassion. It's really about fundamentally changing your relationship with yourself, especially in those moments when you mess up or feel like you're not enough. So, according to the amazing researcher Kristen Neff, self-compassion has 3 key ingredients. First, self-kindness. It's simple. Talk to yourself like you'd talk to a friend. Second, common humanity. This is about remembering that everyone struggles. You are not alone in being imperfect. And third, mindfulness, which means just noticing your negative feelings without ignoring them, but also without letting them completely swallow you whole. So here's something you can use the moment that inner critic starts yelling. It's the stop technique. It's so simple. S, literally just stop. T, take a slow, deep breath. O, observe what's going on inside your head and your body, but without judging it. And P, proceed, but now with a bit more awareness. It's a powerful little pause button between a trigger and your reaction. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. This is all just soft skills stuff. But mastering your inner world has huge, measurable effects on your success out there in the real world. This is not just about feeling better. It's about performing better. Okay, let's look at the data, because this is wild. Research by Tasha Eurich found this massive gap in self-awareness. Get this, 95% of people think they're self-aware, but in reality, only about 10 to 15% actually are. That enormous gap is exactly where the inner critic lives and where our performance takes a hit. And why does closing that gap matter so much? Well, because emotional intelligence, which is built on that foundation of self-awareness, accounts for nearly 90% of what separates top performers from everybody else with similar technical skills and knowledge. It is the key differentiator. The impact on a team level is just massive, too. Look at this data from McKinsey. They found that big company projects led by emotionally intelligent leaders are 2.5 times more likely to succeed. That means more productivity, less burnout, the whole shebang. So here's the bottom line. Building up that inner coach, practicing self-compassion, developing your emotional intelligence, this is not some self-indulgent side quest. It is a core skill for being successful and resilient in whatever you do. It's what lets you bounce back from failure and lead others with confidence.
So it really all comes down to a choice. That inner critic, it's loud, it's got a megaphone, and it's probably had this stage for a very long time. The real question is, are you ready to walk up and hand the microphone to your inner coach?